Chiefs win the Super Bowl.
Chiefs win. Cry, Eagles, cry.
Great, excited to be back in the league.
You know, every day I got the Three Stooges in the studio with me is a good fucking day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
So let's make sure he gets that bag.
F-R-A-U-D-S, fries! Woo!
Justin's way ahead in picks. That's all that you need to fucking know.
Show's over.
Show's over. We're going home. I would like to welcome you back to another page of the Playbook Sports Podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to 32 NFL offseasons in 32 days. Yesterday, day number 4, we talked about the Buffalo Bills and their kind of meh offseason. Today, we're going to talk about a team that's had a pretty strong offseason, in my opinion, and are really building something in the Carolina Panthers. I want to start by talking about the head coaching hire of Frank Reich. Huge fan of that addition, especially when we talk about the draft. I think Frank Reich and their first overall pick, Bryce Young, are going to get along very, very well. And this is a team that's going to be much improved on the offensive side of the ball this season. And if the defense plays as it did last year, Carolina could be a sneaky team this season to, at least go about 9-8, maybe even 10-7, just because their division is so weak. But we'll get into that. Love the Frank Reich addition. And obviously, as a whole this offseason, the Carolina Panthers had one of the biggest moves of the offseason, if not the biggest move of the offseason, in trading all the way up from pick number 9 to pick number 1. They gave up a ton of value to move up. They gave up 9, a second-round pick, a first next year, a second in 2 seasons, and their stud number 1 wide receiver, DJ Moore. But if Bryce Young is who they think Bryce Young can be, all of that is worth it and then some, because quarterbacks are going for an absolute bounty, and if you think Bryce Young can be that guy for you and help lead your franchise, you give up what you have to give up. There's always going to be wide receivers. There's always going to be running backs. There's always going to be other players that you can pick, but it's not always that there's a quarterback that you believe in, and if Frank Reich signed off on him, I love it. Outside of that, Carolina made some solid additions to their roster. I like the addition of Hayden Hurst at tight end as a safety blanket for Bryce Young. I think Andy Dalton is a good bridge/mentor quarterback at this point in his career. Also, don't let their PR team fool you. Andy Dalton is not QB1 and will not be QB1 except maybe in a preseason game. This is Bryce Young's team from day one. He will not sit. He doesn't have any injury history. Isn't a project quarterback. He's ready to go, guys. He'll be on the field day one. Bet on it. I like that they added to the wide receiver room. Yes, they got rid of DJ Moore, which hurts, but I do like the additions of Adam Thielen and DJ Chark to add a little bit of competition and talent to that room, along with keeping Terrace Marshall. And I also like adding Miles Sanders. Obviously, they got rid of Christian McCaffrey, which hurts because McCaffrey's probably pound for pound the best running back in the NFL. But Miles Sanders coming in, I don't mind that, especially after letting Dante Foreman walk. They needed a back, and Miles Sanders can be that guy for them. On the defensive side of the ball, I think they made some solid, not spectacular signings. I really do like the addition of Von Bell at safety for them to play alongside Jeremy Chin. I think that's a really good pairing. And then talking about guys like Camus Grugier-Hill and Shai Tuttle, I think they can be impact players on that defense because that defense is devoid of talent. I mean, Carolina was picking 9th. They only had as many wins as they did last season because they played against such bad teams. I mean, the NFC South is just terrible. The Bucks won it at 8-9. I want to say they were under 500 or right at 500, so it wasn't pretty. As far as losses go, and no offense, Carolina, but this team was already so devoid of talent. Nobody really that walked can I say, oh, that's a key loss. Pat Elflein is probably the toughest pill to swallow of players that left because he's your starting center. So we may see some growing pains from whoever they trot out there at center, but that's not it's not massive in my opinion. Now let's talk about the draft, which I already kind of did. Bryce Young, obviously, 1-1. He was their guy. I'm very, very grateful that I don't know if anybody listening has heard the saying, if when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras, and thinking zebras would be like, thinking outside of the box. I'm so glad they didn't trade up and take someone like Will Levis. Oh my God. I wouldn't have minded Anthony Richardson with Frank Reich. I mentioned that in the TikTok one that I made when the trade was first announced. I wouldn't have minded that. But Bryce Young has been the clear number one quarterback in this draft class for some time, and I think we were just starting to develop little prospect fatigue a la, maybe Zach Wilson should go over Trevor Lawrence. Like, hold on. There's a reason this guy was preseason number one. Let's not get crazy. So obviously I love that pick. You give up the value to go get a guy you think is going to be your quarterback of the future. The other pick of theirs that I really liked was Jonathan Mingo, wide receiver out of Ole Miss. Big body receiver, put up decent numbers at a not great offensive team in Ole Miss. So I like that addition. Get a young receiver to grow with your young quarterback, and the wide receiver room of Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, and Jonathan Mingo is a pretty solid three-headed wide receiver room. I'm pretty excited to watch all of that unfold with Bryce Young. I think that could be an exciting kind of young offense to watch, other than Adam Thielen. Sorry, Adam, you're getting up there in age. So factoring in the trade that they made to get up to number one, they gave up a lot of value, a lot of future value. If this doesn't work and they stink next year, the Bears it looks even better for the Bears. I'm sure my Bears fans out there are just praying for the Carolina Panthers to suck this season, and it's very possible that they do. It just all depends on how Bryce Young fits into that offense. I give their draft a B. They drafted my top QB in the class outside of Anthony Richardson, but they weren't going to take Anthony Richardson. I'm just extremely high on him as a prospect, which you'll hear all about when I do my Colts video, and you can even read if you go to our website, www.playbooksports.com. Cephs wrote a great article about Anthony Richardson and the likelihood of him possibly even winning an MVP on his rookie contract. But I give them a B on the draft. All things considered, I do like the Panthers offseason. I genuinely think it broke their hearts to have to trade away DJ Moore, but that's the price of trying to get a franchise quarterback. If Bryce Young is who we think he can be, and if he is this mini Mahomes, like Todd McShay calls him, in 5 years they're going to be like, DJ Moore, who? Who's that? Was he just one of the pieces? Who cares? Doesn't matter, because we got the franchise quarterback. And I like the additions they made all over the place. They went non-splashy but good pieces, which they needed to do because this roster is just obviously so devoid of talent. But I do give them a solid offseason. When you think of a solid grade's a B. I give them a B for this offseason to go along with their B draft. Not spectacular, but also very solid and a good starting point for this team. Now, when it comes to the three types of teams in the NFL, this team's in a weird spot because from a talent standpoint, when you look at that roster, I don't think they're ready to be considered contenders. I don't even think we're close to that. I think we're at least 3 years away from that. That being said, they play in the worst division in the sport and will have a not terrible schedule to win some games. I think they're going to accidentally win 8 or 9 games and compete within the division. So I think they're trying to compete for the division because, again, they don't have their first-round picks. What's the point in losing? But I don't think there's any way that they actually compete for the NFC, if that makes sense. So they're a team that's trying to compete, but within reason. They're trying to conquer the country, not the world. That's how I'll put it. But I'll give them a B for this offseason. Nice job, Carolina. Kind of excited to watch some Carolina games next year and see what that offense looks like. Thanks, everybody, for checking in on today's edition of 32 Teams in 32 Days. We will be back at it tomorrow with one I'm excited about because of all of my friends who are fans of the Chicago Bears. But we will see you all tomorrow. Thanks.